In the suburbs of Georgia, United States, a small happy family is eating together. The father's name is William and his wife's name is Jen. And their daughter is named Kat. While in another place, a gangster boss named Donnie is seen killing one of his victims. Two of his sons are also seen who have also joined their father in becoming gangsters, namely Rory, who has long followed in Donnie's footsteps, while the other is named Danny, who has just followed in his older brother Rory's footsteps. One of the conditions that Danny must fulfill in order for him to officially join the gangster Donnie is to kill people. Therefore, Rory accompanies Danny to look for targets to prove that he is ready to become a criminal. Back to William, who picked up his daughter Kat, who had just finished playing softball. On their way back to the car home, they stopped at a restaurant. William closed the door and left his daughter in the car. Then go into the restaurant to buy food. But just as he entered the restaurant, two cars suddenly stopped beside theirs. Then several masked men got out of the car holding guns and walked over to the Kat. The girl realized the danger threatened her, so she immediately got out of the car and ran away. But in the end, Kat was still caught by a masked man. Kat frantically calls for her father, but gets hit hard. She didn't know them at all, and didn't know what those evil people really wanted to do. Kat fearfully tells them that she has no money at all. But one of them said that they wanted his life. At that time, William was still inside the restaurant, completely unaware of what was happening outside. So the masked man raised his gun and shot Kat. William suddenly heard a popping sound. Because he was worried about Kat, he immediately ran outside. The masked man quickly got into the car. However, the man who fired the shot was so shocked that he just stayed where he was. It was clear that this was his first time killing someone. Then William comes knocking him to the ground and takes off his mask, and it turns out he is Danny. William and Danny fight, while the other man flees in a car. During the fight, William brutally beats Danny, but Danny gets up and runs. But he was confronted by an oncoming police car. Danny was arrested on the spot, while William was heartbroken and hugged his daughter, who was lying weak. Then William immediately took Kat to the hospital. When William's wife came to the hospital, the doctor told her that their daughter had died. A family that was initially happy suddenly fell apart. A week later, the lawyer handling Kat's death case came to William. The lawyer said that the police would acquit Danny of all charges, on the grounds that there was no evidence or witnesses who saw the shooting. Hearing the court's decision, William was very disappointed and angry. Meanwhile, William's testimony in court was deemed inadequate. So that in the end, Danny was released from prison and breathed free air. Danny was picked up by Rory and his father. They both encouraged Danny that he can do anything in this world. This made Danny even more convinced that he was born a gangster, following in the footsteps of his father, who was untouchable by the law. Meanwhile, William will never remain silent and see the princess's killer roam free and live in peace. That night, William spied on Danny, who was alone somewhere. Then he crashed into it. Then William got out of the car carrying his daughter's baseball bat. In circumstances like this, Danny still has no regrets. He actually cursed and threatened William. This made William even angrier. Then he hit Danny many times until he died on the spot. After that, William came back and cleaned all the fingerprints on his car. Elsewhere, Rory and his men visit Donnie at the club to hand over the money from his drug sales. But Donnie was annoyed because the money handed over was less than the usual amount. Donnie accuses Rory, who is an addict, of being incapable of running his business. Then Donnie threatened to kill his two children if the next deposit was still not enough. Hearing that, Rory smiled. The threats from his father didn't scare him in the slightest. At the club, Donnie's men get a message that Danny is dead. Then they reported it to Rory. And Rory immediately went to the scene of the crime. But the police forbade him from approaching his younger brother's body. The next day, a detective came to William and asked where he had been last night. William and his wife answered in unison that William was at home last night. Detectives suspect William of being the perpetrator of Danny's murder with the motive of revenge. But he had no proof. Jen actually also suspected that her husband had killed Danny, but William didn't want to admit it.
I can't believe.
The movie scene shifts to a nightclub. Rory told all his men that he would make his younger brother's killer suffer before killing him. Then a woman named Susan reported to Rory that she had seen a man coming to the location where Danny was found dead. Then Rory shows William's photo to Susan, and Susan says William is the man she saw last night. Knowing this, Rory immediately gathered all his men to hunt down William. The next day Rory and his men looked for William and found him on the road. Rory immediately attacked him, but fortunately William acted quickly. After dropping Rory's gun, William immediately ran. Seeing this, Rory's men immediately chased him, and unexpectedly William suddenly attacked him. At this time Rory ran over carrying a gun. William, seeing that the situation was not good, then ran away leaving Rory's men, but he was caught. After taunting William, Rory immediately turned around and left to let his men handle William. Unexpectedly, William suddenly woke up and turned his hand and defeated Rory's men. Rory, who was preparing to shoot, suddenly saw a police car pass by, and he immediately put his gun away and immediately left. On the other hand, William hurriedly went home to his wife and told her to pack her things. He'll go out and hide for a while. William told his wife that he had finished off the person who had killed their daughter. After finding out everything that had happened, his wife took the police's business card and told William to ask the police for help. William felt he couldn't hide, so he called the police chief. And not long after that the police came to their house. William didn't tell the truth, he just said that he had just been chased by someone. But the police discovered several recent murders all related to William. But because there was no evidence, the police chief had to let his 2 colleagues stay to protect William and his wife first, while continuing to look for other clues. But William did not expect an incident to occur near his house, namely a bottle was thrown at a police car on duty. The 2 policemen were angry and immediately sounded their sirens and chased the person who threw the car. That's when Rory immediately rushed into William's house. It turns out that the person who came with him was the gangster boss Donnie. Donnie then immediately shot and killed William's wife, while Rory shot William. Before leaving, Rory fired one more shot at William. Immediately after that William collapsed next to his wife. Not long after, William woke up in hospital, and he was rescued by the police who returned to his house. In just 2 very short days he lost his beloved wife and daughter. He has not been able to avenge his wife and daughter, so he continues to struggle to survive. William then stole a hospital uniform and ran away. He came to meet his friend who was an arms dealer. His name was Dante. Dante provides a large number of weapons. It turns out that William is a retired Special Forces soldier. He is also very skilled with the weapons he got from Dante. William started doing recovery exercises and now officially started his path of revenge. In the evening William sneaks into the house of Donnie's subordinate, Zach. Until a fight broke out between the two. Here William was overwhelmed by Zach, who had a strong body. Until finally William had an opening to shoot Zach. Here William promises Zach that he will call an ambulance, as long as he tells him where Rory is. Zach said that Rory was at his father's club. However, William broke his promise, he still wanted to finish off Zach. Short story, Detective Neil comes to Donnie and Rory to find out where William is. Because Zach had just been found dead at his house. And the police believe that the perpetrator is William. Here Donnie and Rory are very surprised, knowing the fact that William was still alive. Detective Neil warns Donnie and Rory to always be alert, because William could attack them at any time. Hearing this, Rory just laughed.
I tell you that maybe you should just...
Right after Detective Neil left, Donnie immediately told Rory to look for William. Meanwhile, William followed Detective Neil to his house. He threatened the detective not to interfere with his problem again. Because William will not hesitate to kill anyone who stands in his way for revenge.
I'm saying!
I know, yeah.
Meanwhile, Donnie is increasingly annoyed with Rory, who still hasn't found William, and kills him. Donnie even said that Rory was incapable of dealing with only one enemy. Rory is increasingly annoyed with his father, who always belittles him. Then Rory and his men immediately went into action looking for William. Right after they left, William entered the nightclub to find Donnie, who was alone in his room. Feeling cornered, Donnie told William to finish him off immediately. However, William let out all his heart first before he finally finished off the gangster boss.
I feel when you killed my wife.
In the end, William's revenge for his wife's death was avenged. After that he used his cell phone to call Rory. William told Rory that his father had died in his hands. Hearing this, Rory and his men returned to the club. Seeing his father who was dead, Rory wasn't sad. On the contrary, he was actually happy, because the person who had underestimated him had died. Not long after, William called Rory from the club monitor. Hearing that, Rory immediately ordered his men to hunt down William. And a shootout broke out in the club, which killed some of Rory's men. Meanwhile, William managed to escape from the club. After that, he returned to the inn with a gunshot wound to the shoulder. By chance, Susan was there and saw William, then told Rory, while Dante helps William treat his wound. Not long after, Rory and his men arrived at the inn. However, the receptionist refused to tell him where William's room was, until Rory shot him. After that, he shouted for William from outside. William was forced to leave his room, and there was quite a fierce shootout. When he was cornered, Dante called his friend, a gangster named Rock. Rock immediately prepared all his troops to fight Rory. However, Rory and his men managed to defeat them all. In this shootout, only Rory and William survived, while the others died. William, who was hiding, tried to attack Rory. But Rory shot him first. And when Rory approached, William immediately stabbed him with a screwdriver. Then he grabbed a gun and shot Rory to death. Dante turned out to be safe and escaped from there. At the same time, the police came. Detective Neil comes to arrest William. But unfortunately, William died from loss of blood. But his revenge has been avenged. And the movie is over. Thank you for watching. Look forward to the next video.